Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm Rachel O'Leary and I'm out here today in front of the greenhouse to start a brand new project for you guys. Now I really don't know what I'm doing, so we're gonna wing it, but I don't think it's that complicated. Today we're gonna start a DIY bog garden. And this will be for a lot of my carnivorous plants that I just want to be able to plant into soil so they can get bigger, grow hardier, and just make a really stunning visual display. Now these are Bradley sinks, and Bradley sinks were used in schools or manufacturing plants as a multi-wash station that were operated by a foot pedal. They're made out of terrazzo, which is marble chips in concrete, which have been sealed. And they're really cool looking. They're about 5 feet across. I didn't film moving these because it was a little bit terrifying as each one weighs about 700 pounds. But my husband did most of it, helped me get them set up. We have them staggered like this. And today we're gonna set up an irrigation system, put in some pond liner, and prep the soil. Now, the reason I'm using a pond liner is because these guys are made out of marble and concrete. It's possible that they could increase the hardness of the environment, and bog plants need a very acidic environment. So to be on the safe side, I'm just gonna put some pond liner in and fill it with my acidic soil mix. But we're gonna start with cutting the PVC to prep the irrigation system, move on to the pond liner, and then prep the soil. So let's get started. Now what I have here is some 3/4 inch PVC pipe, a few elbows, a T, my ratchet cutter, a square to measure, a tape measure to measure, and just a Sharpie to mark it off. And what I want to do is build basically a square that will go in the bottom of this bog garden. And I'll drill it with little 1/4 inch holes all throughout, and then put a standpipe up that's of much larger PVC. And that way I can water the plants from the roots instead of having to disrupt the soil or pour water over top, which can fill the pitchers with too much, inhibiting their digestion, and really just make a mess. So it's pretty darn simple. I'm just gonna cut 4 pieces of about the same length, around 30 inches, hook them together with these elbows, drill it with holes, and then the piece I'm waiting for is the adapter that goes from 3/4 inch to 1.5 inches, which is the size I want for the standpipe. And what that will do is allow me to, again, water it from the roots, so it'll be below the soil, this framework, and also be able to peek into the standpipe to see how much water is in the bog system. It's really important to keep things extremely wet for these plants, as they do like wet feet. And I think this will be the easiest way to do so. Now I could also take a container, like a Rubbermaid container, drill it with holes, place it in the middle of my bog garden and water from that, but it doesn't look that great. I think this will be easier to mask. So let's get started. Again, I have the tool that you guys suggested I get, which was a great buy. And it doesn't really matter if this is like totally perfect, because it's just a watering system. It's not going to be visible at all. So again, I'm just going to cut 4 pieces to about 30 inches, hook them with elbows, and then set them in the bin. Now again, I'm waiting for that standpipe. So hopefully it comes today. So as you can see, this just fits inside. Now I haven't put the last piece on because I'm going to have to cut it a couple of times in order to put the T to the standpipe. But you can see this fits, and what I will do next is just drill holes all along these pipes so that the water can seep out, gradually watering the feet of the plants. It's very, very, very simple, but I think it'll make my life way easier for maintaining this bog garden. Now, it doesn't really matter if these holes are straight, so I'm just going to sort of drill willy-nilly. Also, I'm not going to bother gluing these because it doesn't matter. It's not going to come apart. It's not going to be under any pressure. So I'm just drilling holes every couple of inches. So this is it mocked up. Again, I'm waiting for that standpipe piece that I can put in there to have the vertical standpipe for watering, but you can see that this will allow me to add water. It'll drain through all the little holes I've drilled around and just give the plants a more natural drink each time I need to water them. Pretty simple. Now let's cut some pond liner. This part's going to be a bit trickier for me. Now for pond liner, I just went to Home Depot and bought their 10-foot by 13-foot liner. If I were to be installing an in-ground pond, I would want to drape the liner over the edges, then bury it, but I want my concrete sinks to be visible. So what I'm going to do is cut this in half, cut it to fit, and then silicone it a bead around the bottom to waterproof the bottom, but allow some drainage through the sides. Now because this thing was folded in half, I'm simply going to cut the whole thing in half, following the fold line because that'll be close enough for my application. Now I have two pieces, one for each of the ponds, though right now today we're focusing on the bottom pond. Let's move it over there and trim it down. I simply cut that pond liner in half again. What I'm going to do is put a bead of silicone all along the edge, about 1 inch from the bottom, and then I can come back and trim this up to look nice after that's set. Now I did prep the surface of the tub by just sweeping it out really well, making sure there were no sharp things, and filling in the center holes with some gravel. I'm not particularly concerned if this thing leaks a bit or not. The goal is to mainly protect the plants as well as provide a basin type or bog type environment for them. So I'm just going to go lay a bead around the base there, press it in, straighten things out, and then let that set for a bit while I go run some errands, and we'll check on it later. Now this doesn't look very perfect, but again, it's simply to provide a simple barrier. I'm going to be putting a mix of 2 parts peat to 1 part sand in here that'll hold this up just fine. I simply need it to retain moisture long enough to saturate the soil before draining out. Now while I'm waiting for that silicone to set, I'm going to take this sphagnum peat moss and start soaking it. Peat repels water like crazy until it's waterlogged, and then it retains moisture really well. It's important for carnivorous plants to make sure you get 100% sphagnum peat moss. No additives, no nothing, just peat. They come from extremely acidic soils, and this is really important. I picked that up at Home Depot for about 10 bucks. After it's saturated, we'll mix it with sand. You can use play sand, you can use blasting sand. I prefer to use a coarse grain sand. Right now at Lowe's, play sand bags are 3 for $10 on clearance, so that would be a good choice should you want to try this at home. Now I'm simply going to fill up these tubs with my tap water. My tap water has a TDS of around 100, so it should be fine. In an ideal world, you would use rainwater. I'm just going to fill these up and allow the peat to sit in the water to absorb it all. And then I can mix it in my bog garden with the sand when everything's ready. It's a bit messy. A lot of people will use trash cans to mix this, which is what I've done in my greenhouse. But I don't have any more trash cans and I want to get this going, so just going to use these whiskey barrels. What you may not be able to see is that the water is basically sitting on the surface of the peat, which is why it's really important to pre-soak it. and allow it to absorb in completely before making your potting media. So I'll just take my arms and turn up, oh this is cold, turn up the dry soil underneath and continue to saturate it. Now it can take a while for this stuff to fully absorb water. Several days to several weeks. I'm hoping it'll be quicker for me because I'm running out of time, but can't rush it really. So I filled these with water to the point it was starting to bubble over out. I'll let it sit for a few hours and then I'll try adding some more. See if we can't speed up this process a little bit, but it really just takes some patience. All right, now I need to put in my tea so that I can attach my standpipe, which will go like this. And this piece just came. I was waiting for it, and luckily it came early enough in the day. Now I'm going to put it towards the corner so that it'll come up hopefully about where the two different tubs meet. And then that way it's not particularly obtrusive, but I'll still have easy access to get into it to monitor it. And again, this is not a perfect science. After I do this, I'll install that standpipe and then finish drilling my holes. Again, press fit should be more than adequate for this, as it's not going to be under any pressure. This is the little leftover piece I had from making my cube. Press that on there, and now I have a standpipe with which to water, and my ring of essentially soak pipe. Again, it doesn't matter particularly where these are drilled, because it's just to allow water to flow out. Now I probably will rotate them so that they go to the side so that the peat and sand doesn't settle in them. So now we'll just rotate those parts with the holes to the side. Make sure our fittings are pressed in nice, and we have a DIY bog garden watering system. Pretty darn easy, extremely quick, and very inexpensive. I think this whole project, not counting the tool I bought for the greenhouse, was less than $10, and all found at my local hardware store. So I think that's all we're going to do for today, as I have to let my soil soak and my silicone cure. But stay tuned, because on Thursday we're going to finish assembling this and do our soil mix. Everything always takes longer than you think it will. Technically, I could probably add my soil with the silicone, but the peat needs more time to soak, and you just can't rush that, unfortunately. So make sure you guys let me know what you think in the comments below. We're going to throw this in here real quick just so you can see, and stay tuned for Thursday's video where we continue this progress of a DIY bog garden. Now I'll probably end up trimming the standpipe so it doesn't go above the edge of that one. But for now, you can see how easy it's going to be for me to be able to pour water into here for it to leak out all around this ring in order to water the plants in a more natural fashion. Super easy, super cheap, and I think it's going to work out great. As always, thank you guys for your continued support.